Hi everyone, that's us on Facebook Live, I'm sure. Welcome to Ben's Business Podcast. Today I've got a young guest with me, Jordan Paris, and he is the host of the Growth Mindset University podcast, which is ranking at number 15 in the Apple's podcast for education, which is pretty impressive. He's had some really impressive guests on the show, such as, is it James Altucher, Dan Lok, Mark Manson, and Grant Cardone. Yeah, there's some really cool guests, and I definitely want to pick your brain how you got Grant Cardone on, because I'm kind of in negotiation with that just now. I've been speaking to his assistant, and he said yes to me. It's just a waiting game, so you can tell me about that.
Who?
Grant Cardone?
No, which assistant? Curious.
Say a name.
Raquel.
It was a woman. I can't remember the name right now. Yeah, possibly.
Gotcha. Okay.
It was a good while ago.
A good while ago? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm still in negotiation with that. So you were just recently featured in Forbes as well, just before we got organized this, which is awesome.
Yeah, it was a couple of days ago. Yeah, very excited about that. It's been great.
Yeah, that's really impressive. I'm reading through the interview that you had. So a couple of questions that I had. So I'm going to see if I can go to advanced levels of that interview and ask you questions on top of those answers.
Yes.
That you answered there, which is always good. That's what I like to do. I don't like to ask the same questions that every other podcast interview does. So it's always good to get in-depth questions, and that's what Ben's Business Podcast is all about. I'm very curious.
Yes, me too, man. That's how I go about my questions too. I listen to the guest on other podcasts, or an article like the one that you just saw, like an interview article, but pretty much just interviews of the other person, and they'll say something in an answer, and I'll exactly like you're doing, develop questions on top of that. It's a good formula.
Okay, it's good to know I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
And your saying is don't make a living, design a life, which I love. I'm all about lifestyle design. And that's probably the first question I have for you is how are you designing a life, Jordan?
Well, designing a life around the criteria of making money, having fun, and helping people. And the goal for years has been to have all the activities I do align with those three criteria. And now I'm getting to that point where those three are aligning pretty consistently. It's a great thing. I mean, it took a little while to get there, but you can design your life in any manner you wish. It might take a little time, but you can do it. A lot of people, and you can't be afraid to maybe you're running in the wrong direction. Maybe you're building on the wrong plot of land. Maybe, it can be hard to tear everything down, once you start a building. You have a job. Maybe you're making a little bit of money. I mean, you're not $50,000 a year. You're not, achieving financial freedom. You'll never have financial freedom making $50,000 a year as an employee at a job. I mean, Grant Cardone and I were talking about that yesterday. And so maybe you're making a little bit of money. Are you having fun? No, probably not. Are you helping a lot of people? Probably not. So, and then the making money thing is only a half fulfilled. That criteria is only half fulfilled, if that. So, but it's the safe thing to do to stay in that job. But you got to ask yourself, is this what I really want? It doesn't make sense to try and run twice as hard that direction. You might have to turn around. You might have to build on a new plot of land and design your life in a whole new way. And you can't be afraid to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It reminds me of the Japanese sort of term ikigai, what you're talking about.
Yeah, I have a book up there on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, I've got the same book actually.
Yeah, I will tell you, though I love the concept, I'm not a gigantic fan of this book itself.
Okay.
Concept is great, but this book was too basic. I was honestly I think I gave it 2 or 3 stars, and I've never done that for a book before. Though I'm again, huge fan of the concept and Japanese culture in general. Like there's that forest bathing thing that I'm sure you've heard of. I can't really explain it, but like they have a lot of, I look to that culture for advice in my life a lot.
Yeah.
But you're saying,
they've got good philosophies of ways of living, and that one's something that's fairly new to me, the Iki Guy, and I didn't really understand it at first. But I've not read that book that you're talking about. I've heard and read a lot of it online, so I can see some of the things that I'm creating at the moment are definitely. I almost feel like the passion and everything comes first, and then you find out how to monetize it after. Because a lot of people get that it doesn't really matter which way you come into it, but I feel like that's the best way, because if you do what you love, then monetize that, then you've got the right balance versus how people go, what can I make money from? And how can I have fun out of that? It's almost getting it the wrong way about.
Yeah, I mean that's the way I did it, the former way that you were describing there, and the way you start that out originally is, I mean, like with a side hustle. I mean, you know, we have a lot of downtime, which can be good, but it can also be bad. We have a lot of time to think, and I feel like one of the reasons I'm like not depressed anymore is because I don't have time to think about it. And starting like I'm not asking you to quit your job. You can do this like my friend Hala Taha with the Young and Profiting podcast. It's an awesome podcast, and she's really starting to make money from it. But she works at Disney streaming services during the day till 5 o'clock or even later. And then, and she's like, her lunch break is the podcast. After work in New York City, she's got a commute too. Like, after work at night, it's the podcast that she's devoting her time to. Like, I'm not asking you to quit your job, like I'm saying, but you start a side hustle, and or just do something for fun, like start a podcast. That can be a great thing. You really don't have much to lose at all.
Yeah, and that's really well. I obviously had my business up front when I started the podcast, and I used the podcast, as I heard you mention in the Forbes magazine, Forbes interview, that using a podcast to build around your business to attract the attention to get the podcast itself, in terms of making money off of ads, which we can probably go into today, is not where you'll make the real money. The real money will be made from getting the attention, and then using that attention to feed prospects and potential opportunities from all that attention that you're making to other businesses, not the podcast itself.
Yeah, the ad revenue thing, like, that's not the way to do it. You can build a business around your podcast. But let me go to the ad revenue, what I was talking about in the Forbes article. Like, I think I have the numbers memorized by now, because I've talked about it a lot recently. And with the new book, the podcast playbook coming out, it's a big piece of that too. So like, I kind of got it down right now, I think. So like, let's consider that the average ad slot per 1,000 impressions, per 1,000 listens, goes for between $15 and $40 per 1,000, right? So for this example, we're gonna pick, then you're charging $30. That's good. That's fair. And let's consider then also that you have 15,000 listeners per episode, which is a lot, by the way. So if you're putting out one episode every single week for 52 weeks, you don't even take a week off, then you make a grand total of $23,400 per year. You do 2 episodes per week, and you got ads in both of those episodes. It's $46,800 per year. That'll make you a living, sure. But will that amount of money enable you to design the life of your dreams? Will that enable you to, right? Like, I don't think so. It would not be a good thing if that was your only source of income, that ad revenue. And then let's consider too, what if the sponsor doesn't like something that you said in the podcast, Ben? What if they don't re-up after your contract with them is up? because they didn't get enough. They didn't get enough measurable leads directly from your podcast. It's tough to measure.
Yeah.
I think it's a very poor business model, and it's almost like you're working for somebody else again. Like you're almost an employee.
Yeah.
Like you're now owned. Ben is now owned by whoever sponsors the podcast. And I don't like that at all. So, I mean, if you really want to like make money, like from like the actual podcast directly itself, I think Patreon's a good way to go. I'm like getting into that space as well. I really haven't promoted it or anything. But I'm working on it and getting that all in order. But then like, okay, so build a business around the podcast. Like we can start to do that. Like, so how it works for me, I got like 32,000 some followers on LinkedIn. I funnel people, everything. I talk about topics that are near and dear to my followers' hearts, right? There's like 6 things. And so then that's my content strategy, my content roadmap, so to say. I talk about these things, and everything goes back to Growth Mindset University, like for the most part. It all goes back to that. And so it all I funnel people from LinkedIn to my podcast. And the introduction of my podcast, I mentioned my lead magnet, which is the course.
Okay.
The free course on podcasting, and people love that. Like it's so good. I should be charging money for that. And then from there, you're introduced to my Power Hour consulting services. If you really want to do that, you're introduced to our marketing and production services for serious podcasters. So in this way, and it all makes sense. It's this iterative approach that I'm taking podcasters along this journey, every step of the way, it makes sense. It's not like I went from like this podcasting course, this free podcasting course, and then the next step is like life coaching consulting. It's not like that wouldn't really make sense. So I've picked like podcasters are essentially my audience right now at this point. Yeah. So and it's been great. And you can do this any number of ways. Like in the book, the podcast playbook, which is now available for pre-order on Amazon. If I may so shamelessly plug myself, $4.99. You can do this. You can do this for any number of professions. Like I go over in the book. You can do it, how to do it for, what this might look like for a personal trainer. I call it the experience ladder. You can call it a funnel too, but I call it, that sounds a little divisive. I call it an experience ladder. Like you're taking people on an enriching learning journey. And that's what I do. So, yeah.
Yeah. And another good way to put it is the value ladder that Russell Brunson kind of calls it. And that's a good way to put it because they are getting value at each step or you wouldn't be offering the service.
Yeah. I didn't even think of when I was writing the book. I did not even think for a second about Russell Brunson's value ladder. I mean, read that book. I read one of his books many years ago, but now it rings a bell. But yeah, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, because it's a great way to put it because it's not a funnel. It's not selling. It's not upsell. It's you're taking them on that, as you say, a journey. And each time they're paying $1 for something valuable, and that $1 paid for itself and more. So then they're willing to pay. Now they're a customer. Now they're more likely to pay the higher price package and higher. So just so people understand what we're talking about, that's what it is. It's taking them from a low ticket price of $1 to 10 to maybe paying you $100 a month to then paying for the big ticket items like 10,000 retreats and things.
Yeah, and I have like the low ticket items mixed in there as well. Yeah, it's a big part of it. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're using your podcast to help you plug in, mentioning your book, mentioning like the lead magnet, free course, consulting services.
It's a piece of the customer acquisition process.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Yeah.
And it's for me, it is very easy for me to get passionate about the podcast and interviewing guests, and not to mention the things that I actually do as well, because you get carried away with like you've plugged more than me on my own podcast. So you're good at, you're getting good at it. But yeah, like when I come on to the podcast, I usually ask Michael, who does my editing, to share it onto Ben's Business Book Club. And that's a good way to mention Ben's Business Book Club, which is a Facebook group of entrepreneurs and avid readers. And my whole thing is around books, as you know. And Jeremy, your friend, who
Jeremy Miller,
Jeremy Miller, who put us together, which is hopefully he's watching. And thanks a lot for that, Jeremy. If you're watching just now live or on the replay, I'm not sure if he's watching live, but people are finding that valuable. And at the beginning, it wasn't really a business. It was, again, just bringing a community of people together. And then with that audience of 1,300 members in the group, in a Facebook group, I'm able to mention market. Like I also run a marketing agency. I build websites as a service, and I've been building up some other products, which obviously I can use the audience who I've provided so much value to mention this new product that I'm developing and I've been bringing on beta testers of an advanced kind of level of Ben's Business Book Club called Sunrise Book Club. So it's a great way to, and the best way to do it is for how I've just spoke about it there, it's very natural for me because I'm thinking about it, I very naturally bring that in and mention it every time on the podcast. And that's been growing the book club Facebook group. And then from the book club growing, I use that group to maybe mention the Sunrise Book Club, which I'm developing. And this has been building, and it's subtly been a really good sales tool, the podcast, but I didn't really intend it to be like that. I just make sure I do mention the book club, because it's very easy. I have to create a almost structure of how I introduce myself and introduce why I'm sharing and what I'm sharing to allow myself to go on that, tell a little story about what this thing is.
Absolutely. Yeah. It sounds like you got to figure it out. I endorse for sure. You're doing well with that. Yeah.
Yeah. But like it started this podcast today, I can also get very easily carried away with just having fun and enjoying having the conversation.
For sure. Yeah. I wouldn't try to hold back from having fun with it, you know?
Exactly.
I mean, I had fun with Grant yesterday. Like I did.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So was that live? Will that be going live soon for
actually
iTunes or
on Growth Mindset University? You can find that anywhere. It's I put out a couple minute preview of Grant and I today with a hot take in it about education and school, because I love talking about that. But the full interview won't be coming out until January 6th. Because I just have the big backlog, you know. So, and I wanted it to come out like right before it's the episode right before the podcast playbook comes out.
Okay.
Like before it's released, and on January 8th. So I don't know. I just like had this idea. Like I wanted Grant's name to be there, like right before the podcast playbook, just an added like piece of credibility. You know, because that's what a lot of I just keep banking off of this borrowed credibility, like from the guests that I have on my show. Like it just, it's really easy. Like I myself, like am not that special, but like people view me in a different way because of the people that I talk to. I'm borrowed credibility. I'm borrowing their credibility all along the way. Like I borrowed one person's credibility to get this next big guest. I borrowed their credibility to get the next one, and so on.
That's it.
And so on.
It's just climbing the ladder,
Yeah, climbing the social ladder for sure. You know, it might sound a little shallow. I don't really care. I don't really give a damn. Like that's how you do it. I don't care. That's because it works. I don't care.
Yeah, it does work. People, it is shallow. It is actually shallow, but business is not business is business, and you have to get to the top. You do have to climb a ladder, because if you're on the bottom rung of the ladder and you try to speak to the person at the very top straight away, you're not even going to get through their gatekeeper. They're not going to entertain it unless you can show them, I've had this person on the podcast, or the podcast has had this amount of views. To get this amount of views, you need to have this person on your podcast first, or like you're saying, be the talented person that everyone seeks to get on their podcast. So if you're coming as let's say you've not got that credibility yet, a great way to start getting credibility is start a podcast. It
is. And I want to point out, make a distinction here. This is what in the book, this is what I call celebrity bingo. You shouldn't play celebrity bingo for celebrity bingo's sake. Like just for like talking about celebrity's sake. You should play celebrity bingo with an express business purpose behind it. Obviously, I have a business purpose. You have a business purpose. It's different. It adds to that business purpose, and it helps contribute to that. We're not playing celebrity bingo just for the heck of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's not trying to check the boxes. Like, oh, I talked to this person. Like, and look, I was doing that in the beginning. I was.
Okay.
Now I have a, I have a purpose behind it.
Yeah. Okay. And that purpose is to design your life as well as
sure, but it feeds the entire business. It feeds, in an indirect way, marketing and production for serious podcasters, which, by the way, if people are curious about that, it's at agency.jordanparis.com. Okay.
And what age are you, Jordan? I meant to ask you that.
22.
So it doesn't really matter, but I know that from what Jeremy mentioned to me, that you obviously were fairly young, like Jeremy, and I do find that really fascinating. How there's so many up and coming entrepreneurs in 20 or younger that kind of got started really early, which I didn't personally do. I didn't start as early as you and Jeremy started. I didn't have any of that kind of desire straight away. That desire didn't kick in until, like, to being honest, it only really started to kick in maybe 4 years ago. And I'm now 30. And my dad was an entrepreneur, and he really did feed me entrepreneurial material that he was watching his whole life. He's got it in his blood, and I've got it in my blood because I was only one of my siblings who watched the content my dad was trying to make us watch, and I always was inspired by the stuff, but I didn't really do much about it until I was about 17. So what age did you really kind of get started doing entrepreneurial endeavors?
19.
19. Okay. Yeah. Quite similar then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. And what was it that caused you to start?
I didn't want to work for anyone ever again.
Right. So you experienced working for someone first.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And I said, this is disgusting and miserable. This is horrible.
Yeah.
Never.
Was school any play in that as well? Like, did school put you off kind of structure like that?
No, I don't think school really had.
Did you enjoy school?
I mean, I didn't enjoy it. It's a load of garbage and BS, in my opinion. But I just the real drive there, for starting that journey was the entrepreneurial journey is working for someone else and seeing how miserable that experience was. I did it for a number of years. Yeah. So I had the serving job from 16 to 18 and a half years old, or I was a busboy, and then I got promoted to server. That was horrible. Before that, I was this camp counselor. Just, man, the way the senior, counselors, the older counselors, the advisors, your advisors would talk to you. Mm-hmm. I can't even believe it, man. If I was 15 years old, if my mom was there, hearing that, that would not fly. And the funny thing is, my mom she was the nurse at the camp. Yeah, granted, she was, it was a gigantic area, so she obviously didn't hear it or see it, and it was terrible. I remember the feeling. I remember the way. I remember like I got it in my head. Like I know exactly what it looks like. You know, just getting like chewed out, man. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it took another one of those experiences at working at the restaurant to
Okay.
to say never again. Like this is stupid.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not doing this. I don't
Yeah.
deserve to be spoken to like this. I
Mm.
want to live life on my own terms too. I
Yeah.
don't want to have to ask someone to like cover my shift anymore. Like this is stupid.
Yeah. And what was the step you took to was it you? Did you take the step to get out? And what was the step?
Yeah, well, I became a personal trainer
Okay.
with in-home clients, not working at a gym. And that was like step one. And then
Yeah.
everything kind of materialized from there and shifted and evolved. And yeah, like, but that was what I thought originally that I
Okay.
wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be this personal trainer. I wanted to be like, you know, this famous guy on YouTube making fitness videos, you know, like
Yeah.
stupid. Uh, and I could never I just could never figure out the YouTube thing. And
Okay.
it's not even, and then it just became like, oh, I don't even want to do this any, you know, like and my passion has changed and what I wanted to do
Yeah.
changed. So the personal trainer is
So
not my
it's like
thing anymore,
okay.
obviously, you know, but as you
Yeah.
read in the Forbes article, you know, I still keep like, you know, these two clients that I first got almost 3 years ago. They were my first two clients. And actually after this, I'm going to be seeing one too. I'm seeing them both today. This is my
Okay.
day of the week that I see them. And it's like, I keep them because they're my friends. And like, it's good. It's like social time, you know, like I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Now if I had 20 clients, and I've done that before, working, you know, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 6 p.m. with clients. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I actually hate it. I can do
Yeah.
two. I can do two once or twice per week. That's cool. They're but like, you know, with 20, like you're not exactly friends with all of them.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's much
Mm.
better than a serving job, but it's difficult.
It's very similar to a job.
It can be. It can be. Yeah. Yeah. I've definitely been like, I've definitely been challenged there before, like had my authority like questioned or my knowledge
Right.
questioned. Like, why are we doing it? Like, you know, are you sure? Like, you know, I don't
Yeah.
know, but
Mm.
I guess you get that everywhere, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
probably
Definitely.
should get that everywhere. I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know, but whatever.
Mm. Yeah. Well, all these things that don't work out for us kind of set us up on the path that will make us that lead us. Like life kind of pushed me out and put me on the right track, basically.
Hmm.
And it sounds like very similar story that you've or journey that you've been on is
Yeah.
you tried things, maybe it didn't suit you, and it pushed you out, and it put you on to trying different things, and then something stuck. And it seems to be podcasting is the thing that you've really latched onto and has been successful from when you begun it.
You have to swing the bat.
Yeah.
That's it. You just got to swing the bat, man. You got to try.
Mhm.
You got to
Yeah.
try different things. So I did. Exactly.
Yeah. So the podcast I wanted to ask you is like what I was you kind of answered it there, like what would a day in the life of Jordan Paris look like? So today, what are you doing today?
Yeah.
You mentioned you're going to meet these two guys, but like say what's the typical schedule of an average day in your week?
Yeah, I'm pulling on my calendar right now. Is usually I go Wednesdays. Actually, I usually I don't work out on Wednesdays, but I'll work out at 7 a.m. usually.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. But I'm actually changing my schedule a little bit this week because I want to go Friday. There's a cool workout session they're doing. I go to this place called F45. They're group classes, and I really enjoy it. But 9 a.m. reconnect, re-engage with loose ties, send some messages like, hey, so-and-so is just thinking of you. Hope you're well. No reply needed. And of course, everyone replies when you say no reply needed because you're not a needy person. 10 a.m. Ben. Gosh, I got to take a drink of water. What's my voice doing? Anyway, Ben, I got you here, 10 a.m. 11 a.m. being interviewed for an article that actually this kid from I think he was I don't think he was the valedictorian, but he was the second smartest person in our high school class. He was the most popular kid in school. He's interviewing me for something. So it's kind of cool. And I haven't talked to him in 4 years since high school. So it's 11 a.m. 1:15. Now this is only 1 day per week that I have these people, but a workout, a personal training session at 1:15, and then 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock is our professional podcaster monthly call. When you're with us for our marketing services, you get a monthly consultation. And my consultation is my power hour. For 1 hour is $755, but it's just with the marketing services, you get me for 30 minutes every month, So that's with one of our clients there. And then 6:30 p.m. is I'm doing some learning. My friend Hala, who I mentioned, she pointed out to me this guy who's crushing it with his podcast on YouTube, which I still can't figure out YouTube. So we're doing a 3-way call at 6:30 p.m. I'm going to do some learning there. But yesterday I did a podcast at 11 a.m. That was Grant. Tomorrow doing a podcast at 4:45. So yeah, that's what my day looks like. Friday, I get on phone calls and podcasts and I had a call every day this week.
Cool.
Even though I say no phone calls.
Right.
but these are phone calls with explicit purposes, this, the one on Monday, phone call on Monday was someone who wants to host me on their podcast. Tuesday is a client, the professional podcaster monthly call. And, obviously I'm on this podcast. And then the kid who's doing the article right after this. And then Friday, the phone call at noon is for a TV show I'll potentially be on. It's the associate producer of that TV show. So I'm not just taking phone calls with random strangers from LinkedIn so that we can get to know each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
which is a complete waste of time.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that it was really, I'm glad I asked that question because I thought it would be a really interesting question to ask you because your week would probably look a lot different to other people. And assuming is being validated that you do a lot of podcasts and sort of interviews that are recorded. So like you're saying, that's building assets as well. When you record that and then stick it online, that's building your authority, your status and everything that's good for you. It's a lot of it will be evergreen content as well. Yeah. So it's that once you record it, it's there forever, and people can watch it over and over again. It's content creation is just a long game, and it's interesting to see that you're putting a lot of time into that because every day you keep doing that. The amount of content that you'll build up over time will just be there'll be a sick amount of content out there.
And look, we can continually create assets from each podcast episode. Even right now for my podcast, we're going back. I'm going to 1 episode per week instead of 2 starting next week. And for the first time in over a year. And what are we doing? We're not doing less. We're doing more with our older episodes, going and creating new content from the older episodes, new social media assets. taking a second, run through of all those, like going through like, new things we want to share, but which I'm excited for. I'm excited to bring back to life some older episodes.
Old memories. Yeah. I like to do the same. I like to, like you're doing, like mini clips of the best bits of some answers you got from your guests on the podcasts, and putting that 1 minute clip out there as a trailer for the main one if they want to go and watch that.
Exactly. But you got to execute right. You got to. It's got to be a hot take, and that's what we train. Exactly. That's what I train my people. That's what I train my people to do. To find, the training for creating these clips is pretty rigorous. I'm not like just create a clip. Like there's a whole like course on how to do this, and you have to give me a test project before like I enlist you in the army, so to say, before you actually do like real client work for others or for me. Like it's a rigorous process, and I'm super nitpicky. There's some rock solid clips, that actually convert.
Yeah. And convert as in get them to watch the long one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go through I've got a good few questions for you. And you have kind of like built up a good, what at the moment are a number of downloads are you getting on your podcast just now?
So I do not answer that question, especially like publicly, I don't answer it. Yeah. I don't tell anyone. That's for me.
Yeah. Okay. Like the reason I'm asking is to let people know that you do get a lot of downloads and that you've got a lot of viewers.
Sure. I think the ranking will speak for itself.
Yeah.
Number 15 in education, which is Apple in the Apple podcast in the United States, right? That's I think that's the second or third most competitive category. And then in the subcategories, of course, you got like number 6 in self-improvement. I like to switch categories every now and then just to like see like, oh, can I dominate this chart? Can I, So like it was how to was number 5, and then number 3 in training when it was still a category. That was my original subcategory until in the past couple of months they got rid of like some categories and subcategories and kind of changed things up. Which is why I'm now in self-improvement. But yeah, I'm thinking of testing the waters of the business category and then the subcategory of entrepreneurship. I'm eager to see like what'll happen there, but I'm worried that when I leave, because I've never left the umbrella category of education. I've never left that one. Mm-hmm. And I'm worried that like there will be no longer be evidence of my previous rankings in education. Because like I can go to the rank history of like education and see like, where I was on what date. But I'm worried if I like go to business and then switch back, I don't know if it'll wipe it out or not. Right, I don't know. I'm a little worried. But it's like search engine optimization. I'm worried if I've got a website ranking number 1 for the search term I've been trying to rank it for years, I don't want to touch the website. Like I don't want to update WordPress. I don't want to like do too much to it, because you do that one update and break the site and then like lose your number 1 position where it gets like all the traffic. Yeah.
So that's what I actually specialize in, search engine optimization. Oh. But
Rand Fishkin then, yeah?
I don't know him personally, but yeah, I've read Moz. And watched a lot of his stuff on Moz. Yeah.
Yeah. He was on the podcast recently. But what about the Moz bar? Do you like the Moz bar, that tool?
The Moz bar? Yes.
Yeah, dude. Oh my God, it's my favorite tool.
Yeah, I use multiple tools. There's a really good one called Keywords Everywhere, which has been really handy. But recently there was something wrong with it. So I've always used the Google Keyword Planner. That was taken away for a wee while, and then because that's actually the original. That's where like a lot of these tools get the information from Google themselves. So SEO experts go into Google Ads. You have to create a Google Ads account to get that information. Search some search terms in the Google Keyword Planner, and that gives you suggestions like a thesaurus with lots of different synonyms for podcast and different words. And then these tools take all the content from that sort of Google Keyword Planner. But when I've always been teaching search engine optimization, Google stopped allowing like people who weren't paying for ads to use that tool. So I had to go and like look at all the other tools. But the good news is that Google are letting us use the Google Keyword Planner again without paying for Google Ads. So that's a tool I highly recommend.
Yeah. I just like Mozbar for the domain authority. I think it's like, I just like the numbers, and I'm always very curious. I've always liked statistics, not like the class in school, but like all things statistics in sports. Like I got that stuff memorized, man. But and so domain authority fits right into it. Like mine right now is 28. So, and with the Forbes article, I'm eager to see once it picks it up. Yeah, I'm eager to see what happens. I think I'm going to push 30 for the first time, because I was at 29 last month, went down to 28. I don't know why, but I like the. It has been a slow climb. I remember being at like 6. I remember being at 3. You know, as you know, it's a long road. It's like it's a long game. Doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah. I have to tell my clients that all the time, because they come to me, they would say, Ben, I want to be number 1 on Google, and I'm like, okay, well,
years.
If you want to do that, no, I can do that in a month. But the thing is, if you want to be number 1 for Forbes, then you're going to think 10 years, 20 years.
Or podcast. What do you like if you want to be number 1 for podcast, that's going to be forever too, right?
Forever. But what I do is look for long tail keywords. So podcast, and then like a word and a word. So podcast trainer courses, if you know what I mean. So that gets searched, say 100 searches, 100 times per month. It has zero competition, as in people trying to rank for that keyword. So I look for all the low-hanging fruit around this main keyword, like podcast, and then look for long tail, add a sentence onto that. And I can, because I build websites, I can build a website for every single keyword.
Yeah. Let me tell you an anecdotal like evidence story as to like why this works, what you're saying. Because yesterday I looked up something like James Altucher podcast intro music. And I came across this blog article on like how like all the elements, the ingredients of a perfect podcast intro, the script, music, everything. And it turns out I read the article, and this is the guy that created James's podcast intro and John Lee Dumas's intro and JJ Virgin. And I'm like, and I'm on the website, and I'm like, because I'm searching, I'm like, I need a new podcast intro. I'm like not happy with it. I think it's tacky. I don't like it, and I'm sick of hearing it. And I think it's too long. I could complain about it all day. I don't like it. Other people seem to think it's fine, but I don't like it. I'm looking to be at a new level in terms of professionalism.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, $600 for this guy to get to know my podcast on a 30-minute phone call and like make my intro, like, duh. So I hand him $600, like, bam, in a matter of 10 minutes. That's what, like, if you like, you could be tops in like, how many times does James Altucher podcast intro music get searched per month? Probably not much, like at all. Yeah, probably around if 100. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe something like 100.
But the ROI high.
Yes, that's called buyer intent keywords. So look for keywords that people have a buyer intent. So where they're searching and the words relate to possible buyers, Those
Right.
keywords, if you can find a low-hanging fruit keyword that's got buyer intent or commercial intent, that's a good keyword, and I'll build a website around that.
Right.
Rank it number one. But most likely with buyer intent or commercial intent keywords, the advertisers have usually sussed that out and have already got the sort of 4 rankings of the first 4 results are ads before your organic result shows up below the ads.
Yeah.
So what I do is just I rank it for organic below the ads, which still gets about, last time I checked, it was maybe like 20 to 30% of the traffic, because people are aware of them being ads and they skip that. You probably do that yourself and click on the first organic one because they're not paying to be there. They're ranked there over time. So people are unconsciously getting used to how Google works and unconsciously avoiding the ads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's quite interesting. I am quite passionate about SEO, although it's very detail oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And I am also very passionate about human behavior as well, which is a very interesting mix.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing to learn about. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that's again why it was an instant yes when Jeremy mentioned you to come on the podcast, because I knew we would just have a conversation about something like that. Have you got another thing coming up in like 5 minutes? Is that right?
Yeah, I was in. Unfortunately, I'd love to talk all day, but I gotta be on the phone with the kid from high school. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we'll a couple of more questions and then we'll wrap it up. Excellent. But how could someone? So like I've got like 3 quick questions for you. Mm-hmm. How do I get more subscribers on my podcast, or other people who are watching this who want to get more subscribers on their podcast? Any quick tips or strategies that you would use to do that?
Well, I think in terms of audience retention and getting people to subscribe, I think audio quality is going to be the biggest thing. So that's why I always recommend recording on a platform like Squadcast, which it sounds like you're in the same room with the other person. It is amazing. And then you run the final audio file through auphonic.com, auphonic.com. People aren't going to, and it'll post produce and make the audio like super crisp. Like, I love it, man. Normalize and level the audio. It does so many things I don't even know. I have no idea, but it just takes care of it. Yeah. And so like, if your podcast is not good, it doesn't sound good, people aren't going to share it, and people are going to be less likely to listen again. It's a subconscious thing. It's not like oh, the audio quality is not like perfect, I'm not going to share this. It's not like that. I think it's a very subconscious thing, but I do think it's the biggest thing in terms of audience retention.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. And
I'll put it to you this way. I listen to exactly 0 podcasts that have been recorded with Zoom. Zero. Yeah.
Okay. And how are you making an income or a lifestyle? We've kind of asked this question, but any other ways apart from obviously ads themselves? Do you use ads yourself?
No, I don't. No, for all the reasons we specified in the beginning. Yeah, I do not. No, you build a business around the podcast with the experience ladder. One thing to the next. The top of the funnel, the social media, the podcast, the lead magnet, the tripwire, and the consulting and the high ticket item.
Yeah. So it's a really strategic. The podcast is just the audience, and then it's how you structure your business around that and use the podcast to feed that out. We conclude on that, because I was intrigued whether you still use ads besides that, because it's still earning extra income. No. Okay.
No, I've had the opportunity to do so, and I kind of agreed to it with this one person to do an ad for him, for like an X amount of episodes. I don't even remember how much it was. Maybe I have no idea. It's like 12. And then I was feeling real weird about it, and I was like, I don't want to do this. And so I just never hit him up again.
Okay.
I don't want to.
Yeah. And I did read your Forbes article, so I'm asking the same question, but other than that, the podcast guests you've interviewed are all humans just like us. I like that answer. And I agree. I've had the exact same experience when I've interviewed quite high wealth, high celebrity people on my podcast. So I've experienced the exact same, and I can totally agree with that. But besides that, what other sort of key lessons have you learned from some of the top guests that you've had on your podcast?
Yeah, it's I'm asked this a lot, as I was asked in the Forbes article, and I kind of like, it's hard to say because I bring someone on different on for like each lesson I want to learn. Like it makes sense to learn from, it makes sense to learn marketing from somebody like Philip Stutz, who managed George W. Bush's ad campaigns and 2 other U.S. presidents, and is responsible for thousands of Senate victories. His marketing and ad campaigns. This man is a genius in marketing, and he's been brought on Gary Vee's show because of it. He's been, James Altucher loves to talk to him all the time on his podcast because of it. Like, it really makes sense to learn marketing from a guy like him. It makes sense to learn human behavior from somebody like Chase Hughes, who wrote a book called The Ellipsis Manual: Analysis and Engineering of Human Behavior. It was an investigator, an investigator for, I think, like the government or for like 20 years. Smart man. And Mark Bowden. It makes sense to learn body language from him, learn lessons in body language from him. Giving a TED Talk on it with millions of views. He's devoted his entire life's work to body language. Wrote a book called Winning Body Language. Many books, but makes it just different lessons from each person.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's the lesson there then, is that you go to the top in a category or a field and pick the best person in that field to learn from.
Yeah.
And that's, no one can be an expert in each of those categories, in every one of them. So pick a category and then pick the person that you can possibly, the highest possible you can reach, and interview them and learn from them. Yeah.
Grant Cardone, real estate.
Yeah. And sales. Yeah. So he crosses over in 2 categories. He's an exception. But yeah, that's great. And how did you get Grant Cardone on your podcast? That's the last question I have for you.
I just emailed him. And I have my, I sell my email templates are in my new book, The Podcast Playbook, which is available for pre-order, as I mentioned a few times. Sorry. But literally my exact email templates that I use to reach out to all of these people are in the book. There's follow-ups and everything, and a contingency plan if nothing works out. But I just emailed him, and I use hunter.io, a tool to find everyone's emails. I also use rocketreach.co to find people's emails. I'm savvy like that, Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Just ask.
Favorite book?
Favorite book, probably The Subtle Art of Not Giving a You Know What by Mark Manson.
Okay. Yeah. And you've interviewed him as well. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Favorite book on human behavior?
Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene.
Okay. Yeah.
I may be
not read
speaking
that
with,
one yet, surprisingly.
I may be speaking with him soon as well.
Cool.
We're setting things up. Yeah. But it's an amazing book.
Yeah. I've yet to read that one. I don't know if I mentioned this one to you, but Will Durant, The Story of Civilization.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
12 volumes. That just is some of the best stuff on human nature I've read. And Robert Greene's got a big job to be on par with that.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to read that though. Sure. We better get away. But thank you for coming on and for this conversation. I've had a lot of fun.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, I appreciate you.
And I want to check out your book now.
Yes, The Podcast Playbook. Check it out.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Thanks again. Thanks for everyone who joins. And if you've watched this on replay, please put in the comments, #replay. And we'll be getting as well as a video version. There'll be a podcast version on iTunes as well.
Excellent.
On Apple. Okay. Thanks again.
Peace.
Cheers.